Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Sutlefadius. I'm with the Green Party of Monroe County, and I'm coordinating the petitioning here to get Jill Stein on the ballot in Monroe County up here in New York State. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take a look at the petition and the do's and don'ts, and then afterwards we can brainstorm. I can give you some ideas on where to go, how to do it, maybe some interesting situations you might run into even if you've petitioned before. So first of all, let me start with the time frame. So we can get petition signatures starting yesterday, the 16th, and we have 42 days. We go to May 21st. Now, I have not been told by what date the state party wants all the petitions. They all have to come to one place and get processed in a certain way before they get turned into the state board of elections. And so you don't send them into the board of elections yourself. They go to one specific place, and I don't have that information. The state party will let us know when that is, but it's going to be somewhere around the third week in May. So you got just under 6 weeks. Okay, just because we want to make sure we get them all together in one spot, what we call clean any of them up. That means if there's any errors, and I'm going to show you about that and how to fix them as well, so you can check ahead of time before you send them to wherever you got to send them. If you're in Monroe County, you can get them to me, and I'll be bothering people in Monroe County down the road on how to do that. I can come to you to get them and all that kind of stuff. So we need, by law, we need 40,000 signatures. Now, in reality, we need more than that, because if you didn't know, anybody can challenge a candidate's petitions. Now, it's a big process, and especially at the state level, if you're challenging 40,000 signatures, but it can be done. In fact, folks get hired to do that. There are some who are kind of like professional petition challengers almost, and they will have crews come in. If this is for real, if it's one of the big parties, they got the cash to do it. They will hire folks to come in and look through every single sheet, even if it's a big old stack like this. So we need more than 40,000. They say double, but 60, I would say, my amateur opinion, 60,000 probably should be safe. And we're going to talk about how to get good signatures versus just how to get a lot. And then there's a thing in the middle, but we'll get to that towards the end. The first thing I'd want to do is let's look at the petition. So I'm going to share my screen, and at the end, like I said, and if I can't get it in the chat, if I can't post the file for whatever reason, I have everybody's email address. I can just email it to you as an attachment if you don't already have it. So sharing my screen. This is, and I have it close up on purpose. This is just one regular sheet of paper, right? 8 by 11. And the language that you see, can I get some highlighting here maybe? The language that you see all in here is, except for where it has specific dates or the name of the party, is right from the Board of Elections. This is in election law for New York State. So if you're ever running for office yourself, you can go to the BOE's website and get that language, or you can just kind of take it here and switch it for, whatever you need. Every petition tends to have a logo of some kind. Just traditionally, the New York State Greens have always used a peace sign. I'll just for that. You can make your own comment on that. You have the boxes. Now, when you go to ask people to sign, some folks will want to take time and literally read the whole thing. That's legit. I mean, it makes sense to if you're going to put your name on something of your signature, you want to know what it is you're signing. So that could take a little bit of time, but there's not a lot of text here, and it goes pretty quickly. Our candidate for president is Jill Stein. I'm sure if you're here, I'm assuming you know that. She's run for president 2 other times as a Green candidate and is relatively well known in left circles. Left circles, yeah, okay. Gloria Matera is, and you might get asked about this, Gloria Matera, who's that? She's a co-chair of the state party. and she is a placeholder. She is not Jill's VP candidate. We do not have enough. Jill has not had named an official candidate. I am not privy to where they are in that process. I would like to think that by the time the national convention happens this summer, that they'll have somebody in place, if not sooner. Get rid of that highlight. So if anybody asks about that, just say that the actual person is coming. Okay. Gloria Matera has run for office, statewide office before. She's been lieutenant governor candidates and has run down in New York City as well. Well-known Green. She was also national co-chair for a number of years. She would be awesome as the VP candidate, but we doubt it's going to be her. Sometimes you might get folks saying, is this really where they live? Yeah, actually it is. You are supposed to put on there your place of residence, which is also supposedly where you've registered to vote. Now, you will also get asked, okay, who are these people? Well, it is a committee that New York State election law has that if by some chance the candidate cannot run after they get on the ballot, this committee can decide who would be a substitute. And that's just New York State election law. And it rarely ever gets used, but you're not voting for these people at all. It is law. You have to have, I don't remember the number, if it's 1, 2, or 3, but you have to have a certain number of people as this committee, just in case something happens to the candidate, they can't run. Okay. If they drop out, they get hit by a bus, knock on fake wood, whatever. So that's just part of election law. You might get asked that by 1 or 2 people out of all the people you asked to sign this petition. But just making sure that you understand that. So below is where people are going to sign. Now, our sheet has 5 spots. You can have as many spots on your sheet as you can fit on a piece of paper. You can have a weird number like 7, whatever reason you may have of that. We have 5, and there's reasons why you have a certain number. It's not even really that important. If anybody asks why there's only 5, I just say that's the way they made it. That's really, I'm not sure why the state party decided 5, but it totally works. Maybe it's going to increase the number of pieces of paper that people who challenge will have to go through. Could be a little bit more intimidating. So the election law actually says what needs to be on this petition. So this isn't something that the Green Party's made up. This is New York State election law. It is smart to put as much information on here as possible so that the person who's signing has the least amount to fill out, which means there's the least chance for the least chance for mistakes. This is where I want to take a second and talk about mistakes on the petition. Someone signs in the wrong place, someone puts the wrong date, something like that. Back in the day, if there was a mistake on a petition, the entire sheet was thrown out. So if the person on number 3, right, made a mistake, didn't put their address or put an old address where they're not registered anymore, and it got challenged and found all the signatures on the sheet were thrown out. That's no longer the case. Now it's just that one signature, which takes a lot of pressure off, to be honest with you. Okay. And that's also why we can easily say, look, if one person is holding things up, and we're going to get to that later on, and they're not sure of the address and they cross stuff off, just fine. Let them do whatever to that one line and move on. If it gets one signature gets thrown off, it gets thrown off. It's not a big deal. Okay. As long as there's nothing being done on purpose, like election fraud, then you're fine. And the whole thing doesn't get thrown out. The rest of the signatures are okay. Okay. So in terms of now I'm going to go each little box and just tell you how this has to work. So the date here, you can put April 17th. You can literally spell out April. You can do 4/17. It's fine either way. It does not matter. Both have been done on petitions and they're valid. Okay. Now, if you notice this next box for the name of the signer, the signature required, I'm using a PDF, so it's a little bit more difficult to highlight here. About you can see that little box. Um, so the top one is usually where the signature goes, and then the box underneath is usually where the person would print their name. Now it's supposed to be the name that they use to register to vote with. Sometimes, oh, I don't remember, or if I don't remember, it was my married name, or I've been married since then. You just say, well, whatever name you used the last time you've registered to vote. And that's what they use. And by law, the only thing they have to put is their signature. You can fill out the rest. That includes their residence or town or city and the date. In fact, if you have someone who's cooperative, I suggest you do that. Just have them sign and you fill out the rest. It just makes it cleaner. It makes it a little bit more simple and less likely for there to be a mistake. Most of the time, they're going to fill it out themselves. Okay. So if they, oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally printed on the top and signed on the bottom, that's legit. That's actually held up in court. And you don't have to make a big deal about it. You don't have to cross it off. It's totally fine. I'm going to take this second here to talk about how to cross something off. What they really highly suggest, all you have to do is that you, the person who's doing the petitioning, puts one line through the mistake and then initial the line. It's really small, but that's what's suggested, how you don't like start scribbling and crossing off a lot. Okay. It's just one line through the mistake and then initial the line. And they'll know your initial down below. We'll get to that in just a couple minutes. So same thing with the name. The residence here is the place, the address the person is registered to vote at. And sometimes you'll have a person say, man, I'm not sure if it's the same place. Well, best of your recollection. Okay. And that's totally legit. And that's fine. And it's up to anybody who challenges the petition to prove that it's not the address that's on that they registered at. But it's not something you have to go and have them look up or anything like that. It's totally fine. Now, if you're tabling somewhere and you have a laptop with a list of registered voters for the county, like I have, yeah, if there's not a huge line or something like that, you can always look it up. But if you're on the go, if you're going door to door, or if you're someplace like a farmer's market, you're not going to be able to do that. It's totally fine. You do the best of their recollection, the place where they were living, the address they put down when they registered to vote. Now, here's the last part, town or city, that's a little bit tricky. Okay. And I'm going to tell you the most accurate way to do this. Now, and although it might not be the easiest, if I'm going door to door and I'm doing it here in Rochester, New York, and I know the person's living in the city of Rochester. In fact, next year when I run for city council, I can pre-print in there Rochester for all my petitions, and I know it's right because petition signatures from the suburbs is totally no good for me. I know I can print that in there. But if you're doing it at a public market, farmers market, people can come from other places, you can't fill it out ahead of time. Here is it's a weird, but it's the town or municipality where they pay property tax, or if they rent, where their landlord pays property tax. If they have no idea, tell them just leave it blank. And then whoever, quote, cleans the petition later will have to look it up. Now, sometimes you're going to get people that just fill it in. Like if I know if my next door neighbor fills it out and puts in Pittsford, which is a suburb here of Rochester, I know it's wrong. And I'm going to go back later when I clean it, this petition, and I'm going to put that one line through it. And I'm going to put my initial on the end of the line. And then I'm going to write in underneath Rochester. Okay. But if they're going to just follow your direction and do what you say, or they're letting you fill it in, and even if you're doing a petition and you're not sure where the property tax is paid, you can leave it up to the person who you're going to be giving it to clean it up, either in your hometown where you're doing this or the person in Albany. We can look that up. Okay. It's really tricky. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been doing this for like 20 years plus. I have no idea why they make you do that way, but that is what they do. New York State, a lot of times when you talk about New York State law, it's just a lot of times, I don't know why they do it that way. That's just the way it is. Somebody, I'm sure, a million years ago had a reason, and it just nobody questions it anymore. So, and in New York City, you put down what county if you're calling from New York City, and there's folks who have done this a million times down there. They can give you a little bit more guidance on that. Okay. So why don't I take just a second? I'm going to stop sharing. And does anybody have any questions? You can even put it in the chat if you like. If you have any questions on so far and where we've been, so I can go back. I don't want to go too far ahead if, I'm really going kind of quickly. Actually, am I? No, we're doing all right. Anything?
Yeah. So, I spoke to Gloria the other day.
Mhm.
I mentioned how, I don't know, I think that Democrats will sometimes even try and go for people's names being, like if someone doesn't write their middle name down, like that could be, is that like an actual thing that can be disqualified the signature?
Well, it can definitely be something that they'll say most of the time when it goes, and this has been over the past, I'm going to put an estimate on this. I'm going to say over the past 10 years, when things have gone to court, they've actually been judges for their benefit for a change. Usually we don't get on the good side of judicial decisions when it goes to court. But usually they've been saying, look, we understood the intent. It's fine.
Okay.
You could get a cruddy judge and who might throw a signature out, but generally these days they go by intent. It's again, you do the best you can.
All
Okay.
right.
Don't
Great.
sweat over one signature,
Okay.
and we're going to
Sounds good.
get to that when we get to scenarios and brainstorming. Don't sweat over one signature. We need so many that I'm not saying commit fraud, but don't just
Yeah.
don't sit there for half hour on one person trying to figure out if they put their middle initial when they registered to vote 20 years ago, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so. Barbara, I see your hand.
Hi, I just was wondering if you could go over that town or city again.
Sure, here.
You used Pittsford as an example, and you
Mhm.
said that they had to write down Rochester.
Well, again, it's where someone else is coming in. It's where their property tax is paid. And I honestly, anybody, if you know the Rochester area, because that's where I'm broadcasting from, whatever you want to call it, where I'm sitting, um, no one's going to confuse Rochester and Pittsford. I was just trying to come up with an example off the top of my head. Some
Okay,
places like if you know the Rochester area, Irondequoit. Sometimes, and especially if you're close to the border, and like their mailing address is Rochester, New York, but they live and they pay property tax in Irondequoit. And that's why, but my mailing address is Rochester. You're right, it is. But when you pay your property tax or when your landlord pays their property tax, it goes to the town of Irondequoit. So that's where it needs to go. Now, for
thank
the
you so much.
Rochester, oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you said that, that clarified it there
Okay.
about the where you pay your property tax versus where
Yeah.
your mailing address comes
Right.
from. Yep.
And if you're familiar with the area that you live in, like just by because again, I've been doing this for a while, zip codes are a giveaway. Like 14617, I know is not the city of Rochester. So then I got to go and refresh my aging memory on which town that is, right? I have to go look that up real quick. So like 14624, and I'm sure Rome can correct me. That's Henrietta, right? Or darn it. Well, it's not Rochester, not the city of Rochester, but so I know I got to go look that up, right? So as you can see, I got to check. I know it's not putting Rochester in there, but I know I have to go see where it is. So, and if you're not sure of your area, again, it's okay. You don't have to panic. You don't have to sweat over one line. You do the best that you can. The person you give the petition to, you send the petition to, will check through stuff. It's an arduous task, especially when you're doing a statewide petition. But that's why we try to get them in as soon as we can. Okay. So for someone who just came in, real quick, because I'm going to go back to the petition. So we're talking about. Let me get rid of all of these highlights. We're talking about this column here, right? The town or city. Um, and again, and 9 times out of 10, the person's used to just doing the whole line, right? And if you know it's a mistake, just don't sweat it. You can go back and do the correction later. Or if you have a quick second after that person walks away, you can do the line and write it in real quick. Okay. So it's totally fine. Okay. So you get this page filled out, right? You get 5 signatures. That's awesome. Now it's always advised, this bottom part, to not fill it out until you get all the lines filled in, right? It's always, don't do it, because you never know what's going to happen, especially this part here where it says fill in number, because you think you're going to get 5, but you get that one person who's just not filling out right, and you just got to cross off the whole line. Then 5 becomes 4. Just wait to the end, right? Until you get it all filled out, or wait till you're done petitioning for that day and you go home, and then you can fill out the bottoms of all of them. Now, just like up above here with the person, the name of signer, your name here, the name of the witness, that is the name that you use when you register to vote. Okay. If your nickname's Bucky, that's awesome. But if you didn't register as Bucky, that's not the name that you used. Right. And I want to talk about who can sign and who can be a witness in just a second, because there's like good news and bad news with that. Well, it's not bad news, but, and the address right here, same thing. The address where you registered to vote. Okay. How many numbers in this little line right here? And again, whoever's quote cleaning the petitions is going to check. So try not to go too quickly so that you make a mistake. But if you do, it's okay. The cleaner will catch it. So if there's only 4 valid signatures on here, you just put the number 4, whatever it is. And you know what? If there's only 1, that's totally okay. The date is when you are filling out the bottom. Okay. A lot of times the dates here are all going to be the same date, but not necessarily. You might get 2 on one day. Like I got 1 yesterday and I got 1 today. These first 2 on my first sheet are different dates. And the only thing, this date, getting rid of all this, the only thing, this date here is the date when I'm filling out the bottom part. That's it. And then of course your signature, right? Obviously that makes sense. That's pretty cut and dry. All right. This is important, like really important, but let me get rid of these highlights first. This witness identification information. Now, this is where you live, okay? Town and city is the same thing that we did up in that other box. It's where you pay your property tax, okay? If you don't know that, or your landlord, right? You should either look that up, or the cleaner will have to do that too, based on the address you put up above. And you know your county, you put that in, that's fine. Leave this blank. Leave the sheet number blank. Do not fill it in. Okay. And the reason for that is when the person in Albany who's cleaning all these and binding them and putting them all together, they are going to number the sheets, all of them, that big old pile, right? So that is not for us to do. Look, if you put a number in there, the cleaner is just going to put the line through it, initial it, and change the number. Okay. It's not going to nullify everything. It's not going to be the worst thing ever to happen. But I'm just telling you, it just creates a little bit of work for the person cleaning it. So just leave that one blank. That's for the cleaner when they're all together in one spot. So next year, if you're running for local office, or if you're doing the petitions for somebody who's running for local office, they'll all come to that one spot in Rochester or wherever, whatever municipality that you're in. Okay. Any questions? Let me stop sharing for a sec. Any questions on those? I mean, it really is cut and dry. It's like the same kind of thought pattern as up at the top. It's the name and the address where you registered at, or the name you use when you registered, the address where you registered. It's really just best practice. It makes for fewer mistakes and a cleaner petition if you just wait till you're done with that piece of paper before you fill out the bottom. And then the date on the bottom is the date you're filling out the bottom part, not when you got any of the signatures. So there are some folks who do all their petitioning for however many weeks, and then they go in and do the bottom of all their sheets at once. Then that date at the bottom is going to be the same for all the sheets. And that's totally legal. That's totally legit. However, some folks can't. They can't leave it blank, right? For a week or two, and that's okay too. It's your style, whatever feels right for you. Okay. And I really want to emphasize this again, because if you've done this in the past, like a long time in the past, people will really, don't make a mistake. You make a mistake, the whole sheet's gone. It's not that way anymore. It's a lot easier. One line, one signature that gets messed up because somebody's just not some people just don't follow directions well. It's okay. It's totally okay. The rest of the signatures on the sheet is fine. It's not gonna hurt anything. Okay. As long as if you turn in a sheet with it's only with one signature on it, it still helps. It's totally fine. I've heard of stories. I don't know who or where this is done, but I've heard stories where people have done sheets where there's only one signature on a page on purpose. I don't know if they're being contrarian. I don't know if they wanted to create, they don't like trees, or they just wanted to create the biggest binder of petitions ever. I don't know, but I've heard these mythological stories I've heard about. Okay, taking a breath here. And any questions about the petitions at all? And I can't seem to connect it to the chat. I don't know why Zoom's not liking me today. I got everyone's email. If you don't have a PDF of the petition, I will send this out to everybody who's here tonight. All right, I'll get it to you as soon as this thing's over. So let's talk about some scenarios, okay? And I did a little bit already, but this is a tough thing to do, especially as a volunteer. Some people get paid to do this, which is interesting, because then you do it just like any job that you might not like. I'm not saying you're not going to enjoy this. I actually kind of like this, as weird as it is. But some people are going to be not nice to you. I don't mean like super in your face, but you're helping agree. I literally, before I came on to Zoom, I had someone in my Facebook bringing up like Ralph Nader in the 2000 elections all over again. It's like, man, it's 25 years ago and Nader didn't cost Gore the election. And I had to go and do the research because this person wouldn't, and find the information and post it on this person's comment. You're going to get folks who still blame Ralph Nader for the 2000 election. You're going to get people who say a vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Trump. You're not going to convince them, at least not in a farmer's market when you're trying to get as many petition signatures as possible. Just respectfully, okay, thanks, and just move on. I highly advise it's not the place when you're petitioning to get into that discussion. Maybe short, it could be short. Nobody really owns your vote. You can vote for whoever you want. You can vote for your values. I ran for school board and a woman would not sign my petition because of my stance on abortion. Running for school board. There was nothing I could say or do to convince her otherwise. And you just got to move on. So you do got to have that, okay, next person, they're gone, and not worry about them. As you're going to have people who think they're being funny and kind of mess with you a little bit. And you just, and you move on. And once they leave, you can, mutter something under your breath. That's fine. You need to. You kind of got to get that out, right? That's okay. But it's not worth getting into a fight or a hassle, an argument, or just going back and forth. And again, I'm not saying that's every person, but it will. If you're talking to literally hundreds of people, you're going to get that one person with that personality, and you just move on, because you're going to talk to some other people that are awesome, who even the biggest, staunchest conservative, but they believe in democracy. And they'll say to you, you know what? I'm not voting for this person, but if they want to run, they have a right to run. Give me the petition. Right? Cool. I'll take it. That petition's totally valid if they're registered to vote. Right? And actually, that's a pretty cool attitude to have, even if we don't agree on anything else. So the only other stipulation that I can think of for this is going to be very interesting. If you ever run into a person who says, well, I already signed a petition for Joe Biden or Donald Trump, or actually the socialist candidate, they're not trying to get on the ballot in New York. I don't know if the libertarians are. I haven't heard of anybody. Maybe RFK. All right. I already signed a petition for RFK. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, then I can't get you. You can't get a person who's already signed for that office. If they signed a petition for someone for Senate, no problem. You can get them for president. That's no problem at all. But For you, it's going to be so rare for you to run into somebody who has already signed a petition for president. It's I'll be surprised if anybody on this call runs into that, but it could happen, right? And here's the thing: if you're not sure, put the signature down. What tends to happen is the first signature they've signed is valid, and then the second one gets thrown off. Better safe than sorry. It's not a big deal, because if you're not sure, it's not fraud. You're fine. Oh, I think it was. I'm not sure if it was president. Go ahead, put it down. If you already did, they'll just knock it off. It's no big deal. You know, as long as you're not doing it intentionally, you and the person signing are fine. It's totally okay. Other scenarios. Depending on where you are, I know up here in Monroe County, we don't have too much. Actually, I got a little pile this big of Jill Stein literature. You can go to her website and download it and print it yourself if you want. I'm a little disappointed in what they've posted, because it's like the weirdest size. It's 5x7. That's just a really odd size to have to print on your own without taking it to a professional printer. I'm not doing that. So you can just refer, well, I don't know, I need to know more about the candidate. Oh, that's legit. Website's pretty easy. Jill Stein 2024. You can just, and maybe I'll catch you later. That's fine. Or you can come back and say, well, you're not voting for the person. You're not obligated. It's just to get them on the ballot. And then you can make that decision later. A lot of times they'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then they'll go ahead and sign it. As long as they understand they're not obligated to vote for the person they're signing. It just says, if you take a look at the language, it just says the undersigned think that this person should be on the ballot. That's it. No committing to anything. And then the last part I'll say on this, because you are going to get this, and it's frustrating, and you want to educate people, and you can do it in one sentence, but I really wouldn't spend a lot of time on it. You are legitimately going to have someone say to you, boy, I've heard about this person, Dr. Stein. She seems really awesome. It's too bad I can't sign your petition, or it's too bad I can't vote for them. They think because they've registered in a party, they're not allowed to vote for anybody or sign a petition for anybody in another party. That's not true. If no matter what party you're in, you can vote for anybody you want in the general election. Now, what they might be thinking is, in a petition, in a constituted party, you can only get petition signatures from people in that party. Now, here is the only good part of the Democrats hosing us in New York State. Because they made it so difficult to stay a party in New York State, we're considered independent. And we can get petition signatures from any registered voter, no matter what party they're in, or if they're in no party at all. So that part works to our benefit, although we need way more signatures, which is obviously not to our benefit. The other thing that also helps us as well is not only can we get petition signatures from a person, any registered voter, we can get them any place all over New York State, but that would be legit anyway, no matter, even if we do get our ballot status back. And if anybody asks, this is how we get our ballot status back. Wait a minute, how'd you get kicked off the ballot? How come you guys aren't on the ballot anymore? Which is actually a really good line to approach somebody with, but I'm going to get to that in a second, is that we get Jill on the ballot. We get our 40,000 signatures or whatever, and they're all valid, and she's on the ballot. And she gets either 2% of the vote or 100, and I want to say 130,000, whatever's greater. We have our ballot status back for 2 years. So if that happens, when I run for city council next year, I need about 30 green registered Greens to sign my petition. If Jill doesn't get on the ballot, or Jill doesn't get enough votes, I'm running as a Green next year anyway. I'm going to need like 2,000 plus signatures, right? And so you can tell folks, as I petition, I'm going to be telling folks, look, you sign this petition and help Jill, you're helping me run for office next year. Or if you're not running, you can say, you're helping Greens run locally next year. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll sign that. Now, you might get someone who says, how? Well, I just explained how. So it is another way that you can talk to people to have them sign your petition. And again, you don't have to be bang, bang that. I'm just saying don't spend a half hour with one person. That's all. That's just not worth your time. And it's not worth their time too. Right. But you could take a couple minutes. That's totally legit because you're actually like next year when I'm doing this, even if I have to get 2,000 petition signatures, I'm campaigning. I'm talking to people. I'm telling, hey, I'm running for office. So if you're talking to somebody about trying to get them to sign Jill's petition, you're actually campaigning for Jill Stein at the same time, not just doing the petitions. So it's totally worthwhile. Is it a little bit more of a pain? Yeah, absolutely. Would I rather just get 30 signatures next year? Absolutely. There's plenty of other things I could be doing to campaign, but you're still talking to voters. So it's totally worthwhile. Okay. Even when you've been doing it for a while and it's like, oh man, I'm getting tired. You're helping the Jill Stein campaign. You're helping local Greens run next year, and you're just helping advance the Green Party's platform of all the reasons why you're on this call, of protecting the environment, fighting to end genocide, all of those things, talking to someone to get them to sign a petition. It may be an indirect way, but you're actually fighting for those things. You're actually participating in activism, right? It's not just some political thing. You're trying to advance the Green Party platform, which is, I think, why we're all on this call, right? That's what we want. It's not just green's our favorite color, right? So real quick, I know I'm like just talking. I'm in teacher mode and I'm so I got one more thing I want to do, and then I'm just going to open it up and we can brainstorm together and folks can just kind of throw out questions or whatever. I want to talk about where to petition, some good ideas. And I've actually been talking to my middle schoolers about this. I don't try to brainwash them to be Greens, but it's been interesting showing them if down the road they ever want to run for office, this is the procedure. So we had this really interesting discussion about, okay, so here's this petition I'm going to start doing tomorrow. Where can I go? Oh, you can go to a mall. No, you probably can't, because malls and stores are private property. You'll get kicked off. And if you don't leave, they'll call the cops on you. It's pretty much public places you have to go. Post offices, not inside usually, but people will stand outside the post office. That's public property. Public market here in Rochester. We used to have to petition in the summer, and it was swamped. Like you couldn't move. You just stand in one spot and turn around this way because there's always people around you. Now that we're doing it in April into May, there's a little more space. You'll have to walk a little bit, but there's tons of people there. Farmers markets, if you're in the suburbs or out in rural areas, those are good places. They tend to be in public areas. Door to door. Some people, here's the pluses and minuses of doing like a farmer's market versus door to door. Farmer's market, public market, more people. Absolutely no question. You get a higher rate of signatures, but you don't know how accurate they are. I mean, you can go home and look them up, but you're not sure. Some of them people don't remember, or they'll put whatever, or they'll forget that they re-registered, or they forgot when was the last time they registered and where they were living, and you're not sure if they're 100% valid, but you get way more. Door to door, because if you have a walk list, I know if you're in Monroe County, I provide walk lists for anybody who wants to go door to door. You know they're legit. You know they're good. So you don't get as many, but you know they're all good. They're all going to survive a challenge. So plus or minus, I know here in Monroe County, I'm trying to set up both. Saturdays at the public market and maybe a Sunday when the weather's nice, getting people in a group meeting in a parking lot and having walk lists and do door to door. Trying to do both. And that kind of like hedges that out, kind of balances that out between quantity and quality. So any place that's a public, again, time of year, if it was more in the summer, music festivals, art festivals, things like that are awesome for that. Don't tend to have too many of those. And that depends on where you live and just knowing events that happen. Rome gave me one I never even thought of. There's something in Rochester called First Fridays, where art galleries downtown in Rochester just kind of open all their doors and people walk around downtown going from this gallery to that one. Brilliant. It's like a public market for art kind of, and just hitting finding the nice corner where there's a large amount of people, awesome thing to do. And that's something we'll be doing for the first time this year. So it's knowing the events that are in a certain neighborhood or in a certain area. And as long as it's in a public place, you're totally cool. And then, of course, there's bugging friends and neighbors. My first signature, no big surprise, was my wife. So I always try to, that's kind of my tradition. I don't want her to get mad, think I'm getting other people's signatures first. So I always try to make sure she's my first one. And she knows I'm going to do it. So she's kind of expecting it. But depending on where you work, right, you got to kind of be a little careful there. I teach, I'm in a school, and you really, if you work at a nonprofit, yeah, don't do that at work. If you casually mention at work and go, hey, maybe after work sometime, someone will, hey, I'll sign your petition. Maybe outside work. If you're at a nonprofit, that could get your nonprofit in trouble. So don't do that. But if you casually mention, or your people you work with, see on Facebook and they know you're doing Green Party stuff, hey, I saw that thing online. I'll sign your petition. Yeah, I'll catch you in the parking lot. Or, when we go to happy hour or something like that. It's been a while since anyone's done that, and I'm not going to mention any names. I do know someone who really did a good job of taking petitions into bars at happy hour. She was she was a young woman, and usually drunk guys will sign anything, just being honest. And she would come out of there with like 30, 40 petition signatures. Again, I have no idea how valid they were, but she got a lot in quantity. A bar is a private place, but usually it's pretty hopping, and most staff there aren't paying attention to what you're doing. So it's an idea. No one around here's done it in a while, but it did work back in the day. So that's my outline of where I wanted to go with this and how to do it. So let me just throw it open. We haven't even done an hour yet, so we're in good time. Are there questions? Are there suggestions? Are there comments? Things that you've thought of that I haven't, or anybody else here, so I can steal ideas from you as well. Questions or comments?
Can I just say one comment, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris.
I think that going back to the petition and the city or town part, I think why I noticed confusion when I was gathering petitions in the past.
It's the toughest
was if you're in a village, because the village might not have the same name as the town. Like Churchville's actually town of Riga.
Yes.
And sometimes people would argue, well, I live in Riga, that's where I vote, and da 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 da. You let them put Riga down, or you let them put Churchville down, and then you write in Riga.
Yeah. Again, you don't have to. It's so not where you just go, oh, okay, and let them do it if you know it's different, and then and even after they walk away, if I have a clipboard and I don't have a ton of people around me, I can cross that off, put my DA on there, and write Riga underneath real quick. Or you can wait till you get home.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's totally not worth having, you have to, well, I'm not sure. I think, or you can say it's where you pay your property tax. And usually and if that helps, great. If not, go ahead, just put it down. I'll check it and make sure. So yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Barbara.
Yeah, a couple questions. Can we sign our own petition?
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. No, you can't. Thank you. I totally forgot. I should have started with that. No, you can't. I actually went to a friend today because he agreed. And I always go to another person. You cannot sign your own petition. Great question. Thank you. I actually forgot to say that. And here's something else that's different as well. With this whole, you can get people in anybody's party to sign or in no party. Also, because we're considered independent, you don't have to be a registered green to get petition signatures. So yeah, so that we lucked out there, even though we've got so many signatures to get. So if you're on this call and you're not a registered green, that's totally cool. Now we get our ballot status back next year. It's only registered greens. So, but this year, if you're registered to vote, you can sign it and you can get petition signatures. But Barbara, awesome. I did not think of that. Yes, you cannot sign your own.
And my second question is that people get fatigued over hearing about, you know, whatever's going on, and
Yeah.
they want this and they want that. Do they send, the will this committee, Stein Green Party, send them emails, mail, phone calls? Do they look up all that information on that person and just inundate them with trying to get their vote?
Great question. And that's actually a line that I use when I see them kind of thinking about it. I kind of say, no one will come to your house. No one will send you mail from this. Now, look, you can't. First of all, I doubt the Stein campaign is going to have the funds like the big parties to just mass blanket email every registered voter, right? We don't tend to do that. One, it's bad for forests, and we're kind of pro tree. We do mailings and stuff, and we do lit, but we don't just blanket and send people 4 or 5 copies of the same stupid postcard. But this is what happens. You get the petitions, they go to the cleaner. That sounds like it's a weird sentence, but it goes to the person who's cleaning and binding them. It goes to the Board of Elections. End of story. You can say the Stein campaign will not be touching these petitions at all. This is the state party that's doing this. Okay, so you can truthfully say the Stein campaign are not touching these petitions at all. They will not have copies of them. They won't have photographs of them. It's just, it goes to the Board of Elections. That's it. That's a really good question. And that's one of the ways it convinces people, look, we're not coming to your house. You know, I usually say, we're not coming to your house to sell you steak knives. We're not, and they go kind of laugh. Okay, I'll sign it. That kind of thing. If you want to do a joke like that. But yeah, another great question. We do not do. Now, do other parties do that? Maybe they could. Some people, if you go door to door and you knock on the door and you ask for Bob, how'd you know I live here? It's on the list of registered voters. I got it from the Board of Elections. You know, that's legit. And I've been asked that many times. That's legit. Most people don't know that when you register to vote, it's actually public information. They don't post it on a website. You can't look it up that way, but you can do kind of an unofficial Freedom of Information Act request, and you can go down to the BOE and look it up. So it is public information. Most folks don't realize that. But if someone afterwards wanted to go to the Board of Elections and look them up and write them down, you're not allowed to photocopy them. You're not allowed to take pictures of them. But if someone wanted to write that information down for thousands of people, good luck. That's a bad job, man. But yeah, no, we will not do anything with the information.
And on the flip side of that, since I've got us add-on, is this going to be, can we say like this is confidential information? And then if they're concerned about backlash from, you know, the other parties, or, you know, like on the reverse side, that
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Stein
Well,
campaign is not going to go the extra length to try to get their vote. But on the backlash part of it, they're going to be paranoid. People will think that they don't want to get involved because they're going to get somebody.
yeah. Well, yeah, you can't promise that. Because again, because it's once the petitions are filed, they are kept on file and people can go and request to look at them. Same thing with campaign finance stuff. You can see if those actually do get online. You can look that up online, campaign contributions. So the law used to be, at least in New York State, if you donated $99 or less, you can ask to have it be anonymous. But I don't think that's the law anymore, because even like a $10 contribution, every smart campaign will ask for your name, address, your employer. Because I think if it adds up to over 99, you have to report the name and who they work for. So but I've never heard of anybody having any kind of retaliation, but I've never even thought of that. But yeah, so if someone's like on the Democratic committee, they're probably not going to sign the petition anyway. Hey, I really like Jill. I might even vote for her, But I've had people say, "Hey, I'm on the Democratic committee in my town. I can't sign it." So yeah, that just might be one signature you can't get. I've had someone do that and then donate to my school board campaign. So, you take the wins where you can get them, but that's a really good question. And again, if they say, well, I'm sorry, I can't, then that's okay. You just move on. It's just one person. You can't get everybody. Rome had a good thing he put in the chat. So if someone's not registered to vote, they can't sign your petition. I tend to, if I can, carry voter reg cards with me when I'm doing this. And especially if I'm doing public market, not so much door to door, because I know who lives there, who's registered. But I do tend to carry them with me. They can't sign your petition that day. If someone someone fills out a voter reg card and you took it down to the Board of Elections that day, they can sign a petition the next day. It has to get to the BOE. They timestamp it when they process it. From that moment on, they can sign a petition, but not the same day they fill out the card. So that is a good point. It doesn't happen too often, but it has. And it's actually really cool because what you can say is if you get someone who's not registered or this is for New York State. Oh, I'm registered back in Virginia and I need to change it. Oh, well, here's a voter reg card. But as you do that, you're putting the Jill Stein campaign in their brain. And that once they're registered, maybe they didn't sign your petition, but maybe they'll vote for her come November. So it's totally worthwhile. It's legit. But they just can't sign it that day. Yeah, that's a good question. Our major party petition dates already passed. So if someone says, no, I want to sign a Biden petition in the future, yeah, they lost out on that. The only way they would be able to sign a petition for one of the major party candidates in another New York State weird thing. I can't remember how many other states do this. Is this fusion voting thing? If some group is trying to get Biden or Trump on a third party line, like making up a party on the crazy old man line, I don't know, I need something. They're going to have to get 40,000 signatures for the crazy old man line, but you can sign that. And if they get enough signatures for that, they'll be on the crazy old man line. Because in New York, a candidate can be on more than one party line, which stinks. And the Green Party doesn't follow that. We don't have our candidates go on more than one line. See Working Families Party. But yeah, if somebody says, no, I want to sign Biden or Trump, that time's passed. The major parties had their time, and now it's the quote independent parties, people who are doing it now. If we get our ballot status back and next year I'm getting signatures for my campaign, that'll be in end of February into April. I will not be going to the public market for signatures in February. I'm crazy, but I'm not stupid. I'm not doing that. Man, great quote. You guys made me think of stuff I didn't even thought of before. Anything else? Any question? Any ideas? Forget questions. Any ideas where you might want to go and get signatures that I hadn't thought of? Always looking for new ideas.
I'm attending a demonstration at Congressman Desposito's office on his poor environmental voting record.
Nice.
So there'll probably be some people there to sign. Absolutely.
And again, total public place, legal, that's great. As talking about strategy, just kind of get a feel, right? If you're going to some big Democratic Party function trying to get Jill Stein petition signatures, you're not going to be the most liked person in the room. And I don't know how many signatures you're going to get. I mean, I went extreme just to, yeah, just think about it. That's an awesome idea. There was something happening today downtown where Gannett, the big corporation and our local newspaper, there's some of their employees are out on strike. And both Jill was there when she was in town on Friday. She went and supported the strike. And I've been there. They were having a big labor thing downtown today. I don't know if it actually happened because of the rain, but I was going to go and see if I can get any petition signatures. But with the rain, I don't know. That's a tough gig trying to get petition signatures in the rain. If you had like one of those umbrella hats, maybe that's really big so your petition doesn't get wet. But so I didn't end up going. I ended up staying home on that one. But yeah, demonstrations, any kind of protests like that, as long as you're not interrupting the cause, like if you're trying to make the cause become the Jill Stein rally, that's going to look bad, right? And you're probably not going to get a lot of signatures. I had that last night. I was at a housing meeting and I was going to get petition signatures afterwards, but the meeting ran so long and people wanted to get out of there. I'm like, you know what? We're meeting again next month. I'll have time. I'll get them next month. But yeah, just strategically, it's a great idea. Just kind of read the room. Absolutely. But yeah, it's a great idea. I wasn't sure. I thought I saw a hand. No. Awesome. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the recording off. And then, so if there's anything that you might want to ask or something like that, that you didn't want on record, so to speak, I don't know what that would be, but just give it a shot. And besides, we're good. I don't know who's going to sit here through an hour-long recording on petitioning, but good luck to them.